J-Bone here, and it is time to recap and review the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. And I am joined today for the first time by my new producer, my brother Jeff. Jeff, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, J-Bone.
J-Bone! We are going to start things off with a new segment. Here is the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix in 60 seconds. Max Verstappen was on pole position and started the race P1, which was the only time we saw him the entire broadcast because he won by so much. Fernando Alonso inspired a bunch of guys having midlife crises to remortgage their house so they can buy a Porsche Carrera by finishing on the podium at 42 years old. Charles Leclerc may have been on the podium had his car not suddenly remembered it was a Ferrari and crapped out. Lando Norris went for the bold 6 pit stop strategy and it surprisingly did not pay off. Lance Stroll got jealous his dad likes Fernando Alonso more and tried to yeet him at the beginning of the race. Logan Sargent is an American hero because he's not only not bad, but is actually good. Mercedes made Toto Wolff sad. George Russell is now a Red Bull fan for some reason. Williams are no longer the worst. Esteban Ocon may have broken every single one of F1's rules and regulations. Pierre Gasly is back. And my Haas delusion syndrome is also back because Nico Hülkenberg qualified P10 and had the fastest lap of the race at one point. J-Bone! Now, let's dive into all of that in a bit more detail. In my Bahrain Grand Preview, I gave you 4 storylines to follow for the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. Now let's see how those shaped up. The first storyline to follow was which Formula One driver is about to shock the world at the Bahrain Grand Prix. And I think the answer here is pretty obvious. Fernando Alonso shocked the world at the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix by becoming just the second driver not on Red Bull, Ferrari, or Mercedes to finish on the podium since he himself finished on the podium for his old team Alpine at the 2021 Qatar Grand Prix. There was an unbelievable amount of hype for Fernando Alonso after Aston Martin's strong showings at F1 testing and Bahrain free practices. But after qualifying, where the Aston Martins finished P5 and P8, it seemed like Aston Martin's progress, while impressive, was maybe just a little overhyped. That is, until Fernando Alonso cruised through the field to a dominant P3 podium finish with 10 seconds between himself and Carlos Sainz in P4. All that despite his teammate and boss's son, Lance Stroll, crashing into him on the race's opening lap. Aston Martin refusing to tell Alonso during the race that it was Lance who hit him was absolutely sending me. I need that entire thing on video. Speaking of Lance Stroll, honorable shock the world mention goes to him for shockingly racing with very injured wrists and toe, shockingly crashing into his own teammate, and somehow still finishing P6 ahead of Mercedes' George Russell. Tired the Jordan flu game, wired the Stroll wrist race. Your second storyline to follow was, is 2023 finally Ferrari's year? And boy, let me tell you, 2023 is absolutely not going to be Ferrari's year. Despite qualifying P3 and P4 in Bahrain, even without Leclerc doing a final flying lap because he apparently had to go poop, that's just my theory, hashtag Leclerc poopgate, Ferrari left the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend with just 12 points out of a possible 44, as Charles Leclerc's Ferrari did Charles Leclerc's Ferrari things and fell asleep mid-race. All that after Ferrari had massive power unit issues with Leclerc's car between qualifying and the race that led them to already begin digging into Leclerc's annual components allotment, which means Leclerc could be facing an engine penalty and grid drop as early as the next race in Saudi Arabia, which would surely be a new record that Ferrari probably wouldn't be very proud to hold, or maybe they would because who knows with Ferrari, they're proud of a lot of random things. Ferrari repeatedly claimed in the offseason that their reliability concerns were on the way out, but they somehow appear like they could be even worse this season. Somewhere, probably at an Italian vineyard, fired Ferrari team principal Mattia Binotto is smiling very large. Your third storyline to follow was, are Mercedes about to dominate the 2023 F1 season? And boy, let me tell you, Mercedes are absolutely not going to dominate the 2023 F1 season. Mercedes driver George Russell was actually the first person to tell us all that, as he said, quote, "Red Bull has got this championship sewn up. I don't think anyone is going to be fighting with them this year. I expect they should win every single race this season. That is my bet," end quote. I'm imagining everyone in his garage looking around and being like, "What the heck, dude? Come on, we're like trying our hardest over here, jerk." Mercedes had a Bahrain Grand Prix to forget, with team principal Toto Wolff declaring it, quote, "one of his worst days in racing," end quote, which seems a bit dramatic, but I kind of get it with how most of his days in racing have been easy victories, and with how embarrassing it is that Mercedes performed worse than a team to whom they provide the power unit, Aston Martin. Mercedes cannot dominate the 2023 F1 season until they can first dominate racing with their own engine. And your final storyline to follow was, let's see what Formula One's newest batch of rookies is made of. And while Oscar Piastri and Nick De Vries had race weekends to forget, American Logan Sargent was the top rookie at the 2023 Formula One Bahrain Grand Prix, and here are his highlights. Logan Sargent's qualifying time was clearly good enough to make it out of Q3 and avoid elimination, because Lando Norris made it out of Q3 and avoided elimination with the literal exact same time. Logan only lost out to Lando because of F1's clearly anti-American tiebreaker rule. What do you think about that, producer Jeff?
J-Bone, I think ties should be broken the way we break ties. Rock, paper, scissors.
Logan started the race P16, finished it P12, and kept up very well with his experienced teammate Alex Albon the whole race. And last but not least, Logan finished the race ahead of all the other 2023 rookies, last year's rookie Zhou Guanyu, and quote-unquote future world champions Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris, which can only mean one thing: Logan Sargent himself is a future world champion. Logan! Now, a bunch of new Formula One storylines popped up during the race weekend, so let's now dive into the major ones that I will not be covering later on during the Bone Phone segment. First, Red Bull absolutely dominated the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. A Red Bull car led every lap of the race. Both Red Bull cars finished at least 26.7 seconds ahead of the nearest non-Red Bull car. And a cherry on top, Max Verstappen himself was able to finish an absurd 38.6 seconds ahead of the nearest non-Red Bull car. And, I should note, 12 seconds ahead of his teammate, Checo Perez. Now, that is so truly dominant that it's easy to lose faith in this season having any sort of title fight. And while I get that mindset, it is early in the season, so let's all agree to put logic and reason aside and not lose faith just yet in Haas winning both the World Drivers and Constructors Championships. In Gunter we trust, hashtag Haas delusion syndrome. Second, McLaren's 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix was the dumpster fire to end all dumpster fires. After a disappointing qualifying, things only proceeded to get worse for the Papayas during the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri's steering wheel had to be replaced mid-race, and I'm pretty sure that for a split second there as he attempted but failed to get it started, I could hear the Windows startup sound and see that Green Hills wallpaper. Then, of course, there was McLaren putting Lando Norris on the aggressive 6-stop strategy, which somehow didn't pan out. I thought they were onto something there, but guess not. Yes, Lando Norris really made 6 pit stops during the Bahrain Grand Prix because his car was suffering pneumatic problems that required his car to repeatedly pit if it wanted to continue racing. And apparently, McLaren actually wanted it to continue racing partially in order for the team to get more pit stop practice, which is actually kind of genius, and I support it. Third, the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix featured a tale of 2 Alpines. There was Good Alpine, represented by Pierre Gasly, who started the race in last place at P20 and drove a brilliant recovery drive to finish in the points at P9. And then there was evil Alpine, represented by Esteban Ocon, who had one of the most chaotic Grand Prix I've literally ever seen. Ocon accrued 20 seconds worth of penalties during the Bahrain Grand Prix, with 5 seconds for lining up incorrectly on the starting grid, 10 seconds for incorrectly serving that 5-second penalty, which wasn't his fault, admittedly, and then 5 more seconds, which were his fault this time, for speeding in the pit lane. The funny thing is, while Ocon ended up retiring from the race due in large part to these penalties, if Max Verstappen had accrued 20 seconds in penalties, he still would have finished P2 by over 18 and a half seconds.
Box for ad read, J-Bone. Box for ad read.
Finding great talent does not have to be a second job. You can reclaim your time and find top talent fast with Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Something I love about Indeed and the reason I use it to hire is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Indeed knows that finding people with the right skills makes all the difference when you're a hiring team of one. That is why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/FBone to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/FBONEFBone, Indeed.com/FBone. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Next up, here's how my 3 bona fide race predictions fared at the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix. My first race prediction is that Max Verstappen would win the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix, and J-Bone got that one right. J-Bone! And while this was a valid prediction to make for this race because nobody knew who was going to win at the time I made that prediction, after his dominant performance in Bahrain, I think that predicting Max to win going forward is too obvious, so I will not be including it in future predictions. That's very big of me, I know, so please praise me in the comments. My second race prediction was that the podium would consist of 1 Red Bull, 1 Ferrari, and 1 Mercedes. And cue the Price is Right fail horn because J-Bone got that one wrong. The podium, of course, included 2 Red Bulls, or as Checo called it after the race, 3 Red Bulls, which either way you look at it, I was wrong. That's my bad. No excuses, which is also very big of me, so please praise me in the comments. My third race prediction was that Valtteri Bottas would finish in the points, and guess what? J-Bone also got that one right. J-Bone! Bottas qualified P12 and finished the race P8 after an impressive drive that he was able to accomplish because, like I said, he's a strong, seasoned starter. Going 2 for 3 to start the season is pretty good, folks. Pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with it. But it is not as good as going 3 for 3, which I am going to do for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So stick with me, folks. J-Bone! Next up, it's time to respond to some Bahrain Grand Prix themed voicemails left on the Bone Phone. If you want your voicemail featured on the Bone Phone, simply call 1-833-200-0966 and leave a message there. Or you can head to the Formula Bone Discord and submit a voice memo in the Bone Phone Submissions channel. A Discord invite link is in the description. You should join it even if you don't plan on submitting a call, because my Discord is tight, and we have over 1,000 people there now. Getting pretty big, kind of busting in there. Here's the first call.
J-Bone, do you think the Bahrain curse is in order for Max Verstappen this season? Let me know.
Thank you for bringing this up, because yes, Max Verstappen is now cursed. And here's why. Since 2017, every single driver who's won the opening race of the Formula One season has gone on to finish P2 in the World Drivers' Championship. With Max Verstappen having now won the season-opening Bahrain Grand Prix in commanding fashion, he very well may have just sealed his own fate and condemned himself to a second place finish come the end of the 2023 season, if you, of course, believe in that sort of thing, which I do, evidenced by the fact that I also believe in Charles Leclerc's Monaco curse, which states he will never win his home Grand Prix, as well as the curse of the Bone Daddy, which has condemned me to sit inside this race car bed for all eternity. Do you believe that Max is now cursed? Let me know in the comments. Next call.
This is Clayton from Arkansas, and I was on the Hamilton hate train, and I was just tired of him winning, but now it's just like, it's sad. It's sad. I want him to win. I want him to be winning every single race again. And I don't know why that is, because I was on the Verstappen train. I was on the Leclerc train, but now I'm just like, I want Hamilton to be on podium every single race now. I don't know.
My guy, I get where you're coming from, as it would be cool to see Lewis the legend win again soon, but I think you've gone too far. I will never, as long as I live, want one driver to win every single race or podium every single race even. Not even my fellow countryman, Logan Sargent. Variety and chaos are the spice of life. If I had it my way, we'd have a different race winner and podium every single race to keep things hot and spicy like the goated McChicken variation. So please, sir, just cool your jets just a little bit before you speak all of that into existence, because if you're not careful what you wish for, this sport could get real boring real fast. Next call.
Hey J-Bone, Fernando Alonso is quite happy with his car. What do you think are his chances for the World Championship this year? Love from India, J-Bone!
The way I see it, Fernando Alonso does have a shot at winning the Formula One World Drivers' Championship this season. What Alonso needs to do is to stay as close as possible to Max and Checo by continuing to podium every single race, and also pray to the heavens that Aston Martin's mid-season car development is absolutely spot on. Red Bull have far less wind tunnel time than Aston Martin because of how well they did last season and also their cost cap penalty. So in theory, Aston Martin should have a big edge over Red Bull as far as mid-season car development goes. If Alonso can keep it somewhat close to the Red Bulls, who hopefully start battling each other to spread out the points, then there's an outside chance that Aston Martin can improve their car enough during the season to start competing for race wins with enough time left in the season for Fernando Alonso to take P1 in the World Drivers' Championship. Trust el plan, or la misión, or whatever we're calling it now. Next call.
So it's very evident that Ferrari have not gotten past the reliability issues from last year. In the short term, how far will this set them back? And if they can't get on top of this immediately, in the long term, how far do you think they'll slip back in the constructors' standings?
If I'm a Ferrari fan, I'm not freaking out just yet. Now, this was obviously a terrible, terrible start for Leclerc, and watching Alonso breeze by Sainz probably stung the Tifosi, but there's a lot of season left, so again, don't worry just yet. Before the season, Ferrari sounded very confident about having fixed their reliability concerns, and there's still a chance that the reliability issues that we saw in Bahrain will not carry over to the rest of the season. All you need to do is look back at last year at how Red Bull turned their early season reliability struggles into dominant championship campaigns. So in both the short and long terms, I think Ferrari easily could be just fine and still have P2 in the World Constructors' Championship squarely in their sights all season long. But in true Ferrari fashion, I could also see them stay where they currently are at their P4 floor by the time the season comes to an end if these reliability issues keep popping up. Subscribe now so that I can see you back here for my Saudi Arabian Grand Preview, where I'll give you everything that you need to know before you watch the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, including J-Bone's bona fide race predictions, which, again, I'm going 3 for 3 on. And If you enjoyed this content and want more right now, and also all F1 season long, just $5 a month on patreon.com/formulabone gets you 2 additional Patreon exclusive videos per month, access to my weekly written F1 column where I put my most wild and unfiltered takes, and more. And most importantly, your support on Patreon helps make it so I can keep making Formula One content full time. So go check out patreon.com/formulabone now for even more F1 content. Special shout out to my top Patreon supporters, Kolky and @RatedBookie. Until next time, folks, J-Bound!